Hey guys, and welcome to the third devlog for our game, Runes of Time. It's been a few months since we dropped our last devlog, and Alex and I are super keen to give you guys an update on everything we've been working on over the past 1 or 2 months. So if you've never seen our game before, I'll give you the quick rundown. My name's Brandon, and I work full-time as a software engineer. About 4 months ago, I decided to start making a game with my good friend Alex. He also works full-time as a contractor, as an artist, a 3D artist, and we decided to get together and make our first roguelike game. And that's Runes of Time. So we're sort of 4 months into development now. We've been putting out these devlogs fairly regularly and putting out updates every week. We both work about 30 hours a week in our spare time on this project, and so far it's going quite well. So far, the biggest comment we've had about our game is that we can't really classify it as a roguelike, because it doesn't tick all the boxes that every roguelike seems to have. It seems like a lot of people have their own definitions of what a roguelike really is, and it can make the lines a little bit blurry. So I like to reference the Game Maker's Toolkit's video on roguelikes, persistency, and progression. A link for that one will be in the description down below if you want to check that one out. The two major building blocks for a roguelike that our game currently lacks are permadeath and proceduralism. We have some big plans for how we want to incorporate proceduralism in our game in the future, but for now I decided I wanted to jump straight into spawning some chests procedurally across the map so each run starts to feel slightly unique. This will also help us when it comes to design, as we don't need to manually start placing chests all around each of the levels that we make. So the technique I ended up using was getting the bounding box of our level and then procedurally selecting points within that bounding box using Perlin noise to then check if we were able to spawn a chest at that specific location. I also made sure to spawn chests relative to the size of the map, not a flat amount, and this sort of made it so that the density of the chests spawning were always the same regardless of the map size. I also had some fun putting together a sample scene where I sort of compared the difference between Perlin noise and Unity's random noise. I felt like Perlin noise was a little bit more patchy and like clumpy, and if you layered the Perlin noise together, it had like a little bit better results than using Unity's random. So the next thing I wanted to do was add some variety to the enemies in our game, so I decided to work on some flying enemies. Unfortunately, I sort of got sidetracked before I was able to finish them, and they just sort of ended up turning into some floating bowling balls without gravity. I don't really know, but yeah, I definitely need to come back to this at some point and really get them implemented properly. So the whole time I'd been doing all this extra work, Alex had been making some good progress on the player model from our previous devlog. And it was really coming together and starting to look really good. The idea for this one is that we're planning on using it as a golden standard for all of the artwork going forward. So any enemies or extra players or even just like environmental assets we want to create for our game can reference the look and style of the player model that Alex has created. Unfortunately, this is when things started taking a turn for the worst. We hadn't actually built our game for 2 or 3 weeks, and I know that's bad practice. Usually you should build your game every few days just to make sure it still works. But yeah, once we started trying to build our game, it seemed to just crash every single time without fail. And the worst part about it was crashing before Unity could actually output a crash log. So yeah, after spending 2 or 3 days of smashing our heads against the table trying to get this fixed, we decided it'd probably be easier to just restart the project, sort of throw it up in a new project and just build everything again from scratch. Alex also had a conveniently timed 1 week long beach holiday around the same point we wanted to start spinning up the new project. So I decided I was feeling a bit of burnout with work and with working on the project as well. So I decided to take a week off as well and just sort of chill. You know, I reinstalled League of Legends and Apex Legends and just, you know, grinded out some games for a good week. So with us both back and ready to work, we were able to recreate the entire project within a week. It wasn't without our fair share of issues though, like the ice skating wizard and the desert map which we accidentally created, which actually doesn't look too bad. We might end up creating a level sort of similar to this one in the future for our game. If you have any ideas for a level theme for our game, let us know in the comments down below. With all of the broken pieces of our game put back together, Alex was finally able to give the environment some of the attention it desperately needed. He spent about half a week modeling up some assets for our game, and then the other half of a week putting them all into the scene and putting together some of our first levels. I'm really happy with a lot of the work that got done because I feel like for the first time in a while our game's really come together and it's looked like it's made by 2 professionals. Even though we're still trying to craft the prototype experience of our game, adding the new player models and the new environmental models has really gone a long way in improving the player experience. And while Alex was doing all of that, I decided I'd have some fun and put together some death animations using ragdoll physics for the player's death. It's by no means perfect, but Alex and I had a bunch of fun jumping around in the scene and just messing around with the ragdolls. One other huge thing which got done over the past few weeks was a complete menu overhaul. So we pretty much scrapped all of the old artwork and replaced it with some new stuff, added some new menus. We also decided to add a single player mode to our game and a settings panel so that you can sort of fiddle around with different resolutions, audio levels, that kind of stuff, and it's really turned out quite well. I feel like this will go a long way to improving the first impressions of our game to new users. We also threw up our socials on the right hand side, so if you do download the game, feel free to check them out. We also love hearing feedback from you guys on how we can make our game better, so we added 2 buttons on the left hand side of the menu where you can submit feedback or report a bug. So as I mentioned in our previous devlog, we were working towards getting our minimum viable product done, and the deadline for that one was coming up fast. On my side, the only thing I really had left to do was implementing the audio for our game, and I sort of had to just come up with a band-aid solution as I only had 1 or 2 days left before we wanted to have this one done. So immediately I went to Uncle Google to try and find some temporary royalty-free music and sound effects for our game. And the intent for these ones is to just use them temporarily until we can find the time to either create some audio for ourselves or hire some proper contractors to get the work done for us. As we really take pride in the fact that everything we've made so far in our game is pretty much 100% in-house. So with the audio implemented, our MVP is pretty much complete, which is a huge step for us, as that pretty much means that our game is in like a playable state. Like all of the core mechanics for the game are sort of implemented, and going forward, we're just going to be building upon the foundations that we already have. Another huge benefit of working towards an MVP model is that you can start creating like weekly or fortnightly stable releases of your game, and you'll assume that you have like a complete game that your players can play. So even if we're not quite in the prototype stage of our game yet, and we're not even in beta or whatever, anyone can sort of download our game, and hopefully what they play represents somewhat of a game. So with the MVP complete, it gave Alex and I an opportunity to sit down and have a discussion on what we wanted to change and what we thought was good about our game. So we came up with a bunch of new great ideas that we want to implement, which we hope will have like a positive impact on our game, and we'll probably just implement these things over the next few weeks in a prototypey state so we can get a feel if we want to keep those mechanics or not. So yeah, I spent the next week adding a few more items into the game. So I think I added 6 new items, and also implementing one of the first mechanics we talked about, which was a mana system for our game. We felt like it wouldn't be a Magic game without like a secondary resource for spell management, and that also gives us the opportunity to add some more interesting items that can sort of work well with certain build types for your mage. So you can go for more of like an attack speed build, or you can go for maybe some cooldown reduction with like mana regeneration items and items that proc off of consuming mana, that sort of stuff. So yeah, we've got a lot of different directions we can take this. So with all that work done, I actually had a family trip planned over the weekend to visit my family down in Adelaide. So I thought that was a great opportunity to sort of show off my game and grab some more opinions, because I feel like it's really important to get new players testing your game and testing often, and really asking for like some critical feedback and critical opinions that can sort of change how you want to design your game. And it's a good opportunity also to sort of see the flaws in your game and sort of challenges in your game that you don't really realize because you might be the developer. So yeah, that was a great experience as well, and we were able to grab a bunch of new bugs and like things we want to alter from just getting more people playing our game. So yeah, that pretty much concludes all the work we've done since our previous video. If you're interested in playing the game, there'll be an itch.io link in the description down below. You'll also be able to join our community Discord, where you can just hang out and, talk anything game dev. Alright, see you there. If you enjoyed the video, hitting that like and subscribe button helps us a bunch. And if you want to get notified the next time we release a devlog, be sure to hit the bell icon. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.